Hi. So there is a little bit of trigger warnings before we start. If you guys are sensitive to, gang on people, bullying, burning, or anything like that, please click off of this video. I understand, and I'll hopefully see you in another video. But other than that, please like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. With that being said, this is a story I wrote, part 1, Friends. Hwayeon didn't like going home. Every time she did, her parents scolded her about staying out so late, but she couldn't help it. She loved the night. Loved skating around the city with her earbuds in, blasting her favorite songs. It wasn't until the night she'd been grabbed and thrown in an alley. People reassured her that it wasn't her fault, that she couldn't have known, but only if she'd just listened to her parents or heard the group coming at her. No matter what anyone said, she knew it all could have been prevented. She didn't want anyone at school to know, so she refused to press charges. Even when the police found the girls, they'd burned her with lighters and cigarette butts. She was only in the 6th grade when it happened, so no one from elementary school too much remembered the leave of absence she took. It was only 2 weeks, not that long, but she hated it. When she returned, she didn't speak to her friends. They tried and tried with her, but she kept her head down and quiet. She didn't realize it then, but she was turning away the ones that cared for her the most, building high walls around herself. When she did finally realize, she was horrified to find that she didn't care. She didn't care because, though her scars didn't hurt anymore, every time she touched or saw them in mirrors, she still flinched. She couldn't, for the life of her, understand what she did to bring on that kind of assault. When she got to middle school, she didn't join any clubs. It scared her too much to be around people, especially a group of girls older than her. She mostly kept to herself at lunch. She kept her black hood up and didn't make any sounds. She still skated to and from school, but she didn't stay out late anymore. She'd never disobey her parents again. Hwayeon sat in her chair, her feet moving the skateboard under her desk back and forth. When the bell finally rang, she jumped up, knocking her chair against the desk behind her. She winced at the sound, turned and apologized to the boy. She didn't look him in the eyes, though. She'd always had a problem with that. But after the incident, it became second nature to avoid the eyes of others. She hated it. It was like submitting before putting up a fight. But she knew that was a stupid notion. Not everyone was out to get her. She just couldn't help it. She grabbed her bag and kicked her board up to her hands, bustling out with the rest of her classmates. She didn't know any of their names, but she didn't care. At one point in the first year, she thought she might at least try to make acquaintances, but she failed miserably and never tried again. She hated that talking to people had become a struggle for her, and she hated failing. Thankfully, no one paid her any mind, and she was able to float through like a ghost. A few days after the incident with the boy's desk, she was approached, not by him, but by another girl, around the same height as Hwayeon. The girl was similar to Hwayeon in the way she carried herself, shoulders down, hair somewhat blocking her sight, and hands glued to her sides, though she didn't avoid eye contact. In fact, it seemed like she tried to force it with Hwayeon, who kept her eyes on the ground, then the wall when the girl moved her body downward. "You're Ellen Hwayeon, right?" Hwayeon nodded, but did not speak. The girl sighed, threw her head back, and placed her hands on her hips, allowing all her weight to fall to one side. "Can I ask you something?" Hwayeon had no idea who this girl was, nor how she knew Hwayeon's name, but she nodded again because maybe she'd get out of there sooner if she gave the girl what she wanted. The girl made eye contact with Hwayeon, and Hwayeon made eye contact with the girl's shoulder. Are you free after school? Hwayen's heartbeat picked up speed. Why did this random girl, want to know something like that? Hwayen took in the girl's figure once more. She was pretty slender, short too. She couldn't take Hwayen if she tried, but maybe if there were two of her. Hwayen shook her head. This was not the time to be overthinking, much less thinking about things like that. This girl's tone wasn't menacing, cold, or in any way mean. In fact, she sounded kind of bored, annoyed even. Hwayen said, "No." The girl nodded. "Then come with me." The girl walked past Hwayen, but Hwayen didn't move. The girl threw her head back again and grabbed Hwayen by the wrist. "I'm Kaneko Mitsu from Class 2A. "But why?" Hwayen trailed off as the girl, Kaneko, pulled her down the stairs in the opposite direction of the school gates. "Why am I randomly approaching you out of nowhere? Or why am I pulling you toward the back of the school instead of the front?" "Both." Kaneko sighed as they made their way downstairs. They headed to the shoe lockers where a couple of kids still sat, talking or switching their shoes. "What's your locker?" Kaneko asked. Hwayen found it a little funny. The end of her name kind of sounded like the word cat. "Here." Hwayen pointed to the first locker near the school doors. "Cool, switch your shoes and meet me in the front." Hwayen tried not to think about what she was getting herself into as she followed Kaneko's orders. She closed her locker and found Kaneko waiting for her in the front, just like she'd said she would. Kaneko grabbed Hwayen's sleeve again and began pulling her along. "Come on, they're waiting." Hwayen pulled on the girl's sleeve, eyes widening. "Who?" "The boys, of course. I don't know why he wanted me to bring you in the first place,
Who?
but..." Hwayen was now confused about who was the he she was referring to. Hwayen tried her best, but she could not think of anyone special. Kaneko paused, and Hwayen imagined her eyes widened slightly as well. "Itsuki?" The name did not ring a bell. Itsuki? Was he maybe in her class? And where were they meeting up that was on campus? Hwayen's confusion strengthened when Kaneko said, "You know, red hair, elven height, a little psycho." For some reason, Hwayen chuckled at that last bit, and then she took a step back. Did she really just laugh? It was an odd feeling, but she liked it. Now, Hwayen was not only confused, she was curious. "Sure, take me to Itsuki." Whatever. Kaneko led Hwayen out to the lower level tennis courts, where they found a handful of boys in rackets. Some were lounging around, drinking what Hwayen assumed was water out of sports water bottles. Kaneko cupped her hands over her mouth and yelled, "Hey, I brought her!" Hwayen lowered her head and tried to make herself as small as possible. She didn't know how to react to the attention being bestowed upon her. She watched heads turn from the corner of her eyes. Kaneko approached one of the boys who had been standing in front of the guys that were lounging. She motioned for Hwayen to come over, and although apprehensively, she did. As she got closer, the faces of the boys on the floor became much clearer. She didn't recognize any of them. "Hello," the boy standing with Kaneko smiled. "My name is Yuta Atsuki. It's nice to meet you." Hwayen nodded, but didn't try for a smile. She didn't know any of these people, and for that matter, didn't know why she was here in the first place. She needed to be heading home within 2 hours, and she kind of wanted to skate around a little before then. Whoa, he wasn't lying. Another boy, this one with darker skin and bluish hair, jumped up and pushed his face into Hwayen's. "Itsuki does have a girlfriend." Just then, a boy, much shorter than the one with bluish hair, but around Hwayen and Kaneko's height, smacked the back of the boy's head. Hwayen was surprised he could even reach that high. "I told you, she isn't my girlfriend." It all clicked when the short boy's eyes landed on Hwayen's. She, of course, averted them immediately. "You know, red hair, elven height, a little psycho." Hwayen reverberated a groan as Kaneko's words rang in her head. The boy's desk she'd rammed her chair into a few days ago, the one she'd apologized to. But why? It still didn't make any sense. Was he still mad about that time? Hwayen didn't know what else she could do. She'd already apologized. He couldn't expect much more than that. "Hi, Ellen. Thanks for coming." Wine opened her eyes but didn't meet his. Instead, she let them fall on his nose. "Why am I here?" Itsuki, without missing a beat, replied, "I've been watching you." He set down his racket and pulled her to the side, whispering, "I know we've never spoken to each other, but ever since that day you hit my desk, I don't know." He looked away. I've been watching you, and I think, well, you're always alone, so this is you pitying me?" Waya narrowed her eyes, pulling away from his arm. "No, please don't misunderstand." Itsuki frowned, looking at her. Wine scoffed. This must be what she meant by you being a little psycho. A little my ass. What? Itsuki raised his brows. Who called me psycho? Then he turned to what Wyan imagined was an accusational stare toward Kaneko. She shrugged her shoulders and turned back to her conversation. "In any case, I don't want to come off as weird, but the way you looked..." Itsuki shrugged. "It made me feel weird." "The way I looked?" Wyan raised her brows questioningly. "I mean, the look in your eyes. It was like you weren't there." Like I said, he rubbed his arm. "It was weird." "So I'm here as your little pet project?" "No." He waved his hands, then smacked his forehead. "You're really hard to talk to, you know." "Gee, thanks. Maybe I should leave then." Wyan turned, but only got a few paces in before Itsuki grabbed her uniform and spun her around. Slightly surprised at the grip on him, Wyan paused, stunned a little. "That's not what I'm saying. I just want..." Itsuki bit his lip and looked toward the ground. Wyan knew that look well. She'd seen multiple doctors, lawyers, and police give her the exact same look. Though, on him, it looked calmer, more unafraid of her reaction. "It's fine, but we've never spoken before. Why now?" "I already told you, because I didn't really know I existed until I slammed into your desk." "You didn't slam into my desk, let's not over-exaggerate." Wyan scoffed. "You're kind of rude, and you're more straightforward than you seemed. Did you expect me to be shy?" Wyan pouted mockingly. Itsuki narrowed his eyes only slightly, but it was still enough to make Wyan flinch, which didn't go unnoticed. Itsuki's eyes returned to their normal almond shape, and his frown lifted a little. "Hey, can we not fight? Like you said, we barely know each other." "Yes, about that. Why'd you send that girl to find me? Why not just talk to me yourself? We are in the same class." "I know, but I was..." He closed his eyes, wincing as he said, "Nervous?" "Hey, Itsuki, quit flirting, we have practice," some tall boy with blonde hair yelled. Itsuki turned his head and rolled his eyes, blinking back toward Wyan's, whose own went to Itsuki's hair. It wasn't red like Kaneko had said, but more burgundy. "Also that," he pointed, "that thing you do with your eyes. You did it when you apologized." "It's weird, I know." Wyan huffed, looking away. "It is, but why do you do it?" "Itsuki, hurry your ass up." Itsuki huffed, and Wyan smiled a little. "You better go." He sent her a wary expression. "Will you stay?" Wyan wasn't sure if she should stay. Well, it really depended on time. "What time does your practice end?" "In a few hours, but we have breaks in between. How long can you stay?" "I have to leave before 5. Itsuki nodded. "Alright, that's fine. I'll walk you home. We can talk then." Itsuki ran off before Wyan could scoff at him. He really was a little psycho. Wyan didn't know why she'd listened to the scorpion, but she did. She'd given up her skating time today for him. Maybe she was just really curious. That seemed like the only plausible reason she could have. Kaneko had, at some point, sat beside Wyan. The girl shouted, mostly insults, to one boy in particular, and the boy that had introduced himself before, Yuta Atsuki, would nervously tell her what she said was kind of mean. And the whole event seemed so natural, practiced even, and for a few minutes, Wine lost track of time. When she checked her phone, the boys came back over, falling flat on the grass. Kaneko snapped a photo of the boy she'd been yelling at, Maki, but Wine assumed that was his first name. She felt weird calling him that, so for now she'd refer to him as the boy Kaneko bullies. Are you okay? Wine raised a brow and she took in Itsuki's figure. He looked rough, but she didn't want to say that. She reached out and poked his side. Itsuki. Hey, so what's your name? Someone called. Wine looked up to see the boy with bluish hair and tan skin. Leave her alone, Tsubasa. Itsuki huffed, pulling himself into a sitting position. Yuta handed him a water bottle and Itsuki took it, thanking the boy in the process. So, how do you two know each other? Yuta asked, smiling kindly at Wine. Wine could tell Itsuki didn't know how to explain anything. She did feel a little bad about that, so she answered for them. We're friends. Really? A few raised brows were sent their way. I thought we were the only friends Itsuki had. Itsuki glared and threw his water bottle at that Tsubasa. Shut up. You don't have to lie to us. The tall guy with orange hair laughed. But I'm not lying. Wine frowned. Itsu's gonna walk me home, right? She pouted at him, getting a kick at the way his mouth dropped open. Itsu? A few boys called. My. Kaneko covered her grin with a hand. That's a cute nickname. Piss off, Neko. Kaneko rolled her eyes at Itsuki but said nothing else. Alright, let's do a few laps and then we can all go home. A boy, who I had assumed to be the captain, called out. Everyone groaned, including Itsuki. There was only one who didn't. The boy Kaneko bullies. Though he didn't look ecstatic to run, he didn't seem to care either. They stood, dusted themselves off, and formed a group. The captain and the boy Kaneko insulted at the front. Go! Yuta shouted, and the boys started off. Wine's eyes widened as she took in how fast they were. She placed her hands under her butt and pulled her legs up, leaning her chin on her knees, sliding her board back and forth on the dry dirt. Around an hour later, Wine checked her phone and realized it was about time to head out. She frowned, looking toward Itsuki. She didn't want to leave him like this. It felt almost cruel, but she didn't have a choice. She told him the time she needed to leave, and it was his own fault. She got up, dusted her hands off, and kicked up her board right as the boys came running in. They all fell to the floor again. Wine watched Itsuki, careful not to make a weird face as she did. She didn't mind them calling her his girlfriend to tease him, but she didn't want to give them any indication they could tease her as well. Ellen, Itsuki huffed, turning his head to the side so that his cheek fell into the dry dirt instead of his mouth. Still here, she called with clear sarcasm. Just give me a few minutes, okay? Hurry. She crossed her arms, frowning. I don't have all day. What's wrong? Are you afraid of the dark? He smirked, obviously trying to poke fun at her, but the way Wine shivered at the thought of being out and alone at night really did scare her. That wasn't something to joke about. She got a little mad knowing that was what he was doing, whether he knew about her past or not. Teasing someone with fear is not funny. You're Ellen Wyan, right? Wyan turned her head, surprised at the quickness with which the boy had snuck up on her. Who are you? She raised a brow at the boy Kaneko bullies, focusing her eyes on the collar of his shirt. Yeah, Itsuki said you did that. He smiled slightly. My name is Katsuragi Maki. He held out his hand. Wyan stared at the outstretched hand. Katsuragi? What a cute name. Wyan slowly placed her hand in his. His grip was firm, but not tight. It was almost cautious. That's right. Can I ask you something? In Wyan's head, she heard the question overlapping with the one Kaneko had asked a few hours ago when they had first met. They both had black hair. Maybe they were siblings with different last names. What do you want to know? Why do you avoid people's eyes? Wyan shifted her weight, looking back toward Itsuki, but the scorpion was staring at her curiously, waiting for her answer as well. She rolled her eyes and snatched her hand back. That's none of your business. You're right, it's not. Katsuragi smiled. Was that all? He was weird. Ellen, give me a moment, okay? I'm gonna go change real quick. Hurry. Wyan emphasized the word. Alright. Itsuki ran toward a small shack. It looked like an old locker or club room. Hey, Ellen. Kaneko approached the girl. Are you really friends with Itsuki? For some reason, Wyan answered just as quickly as Itsuki had when speaking to her. Yeah, why? Kaneko shrugged. You two seem a little different. At this, Wyan unintentionally smirked. Opposites attract, right? Yeah, but you're not necessarily opposites, just a little different. Oh? She raised a brow. What makes us different and similar? It was crazy to Wyan. This girl had not known her for more than 3 hours and was already making assumptions about her personality. Kaneko shrugged again. He's more loud, and you seem like you only speak when spoken to. But you're similar in being stubborn. And how would you know that? Based on the conversation and the looks you two were giving each other earlier, it isn't that hard to tell, you know. Wyan was taken aback. Was it really that easy to discern her personality from a conversation? Was she really that expressive? I'm back. Itsuki walked toward them, waving. Katsuragi and the captain followed close behind. Great, let's go, Wyan said monotonously. You're really gonna walk home together? The captain asked, raising a brow. Is it something special? 3 of you, plus you to walk home all the time. That's because I live in the same building as him. Yes, but you go up to his apartment as well, the captain pointed out. Only for his food. You make it seem like something else, Kaneko retorted, annoyance mixed with a little embarrassment flashing on her face. No, so you're just mooching off me, huh? Katsuragi slid her a smug grin. She pushed his face out of hers with her hand. Shut up. Wyan slid her gaze to Itsuki, who she found already staring at her. She instantly looked away and began walking. Let's go, Scorpion. Hi everyone, so if you do not know this anime, this is Stars Align, and I just recently was encouraged to watch it, and my goodness, I fell in love with a few characters, and they are like 14, so is that a red flag? I don't know, but this is one of the characters that I really fell for, and I really love them so much, my little kinnies. So I wrote this story. There's going to be a part 2, probably in his POV, but I hope you enjoyed this for now. Anyways, I'm going to go edit the rest of this. Have an amazing morning, have an amazing afternoon, have an amazing evening, whenever you are, and I'll see you guys when I see you guys, which will hopefully be tomorrow. Goodbye, everyone.